So a lot of the Ohio State players that we talked to here today, Wednesday, at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center were committal about the Cotton Bowl. They're all playing in the Cotton Bowl. They were non-committal about whether they're going to be playing the season opener next season for Ohio State, or if they'll still be on the roster, if they're going to be in the NFL. The one big exception, well, of the people who have the choice of leaving, Sonny Styles is going to be here next year. The one exception was Cody Simon, linebacker, going to be coming back for his 5th year. He told us that was still something he was considering going into the Michigan game, and he's come to the decision that he will be back here to lead that room. Now, that's obviously a position where you've got C.J. Hicks and you've got Gabe Powers as former top 50 recruits. I mean, C.J. Hicks was even much higher than that. These are guys that have been waiting their turn for 3 years. So just what do you think Simon coming back, Stephen, means for the linebacker dynamic next season?
Well, one, it's depth, because that room was getting a little skippish there, even at a position where they only play 2 guys. You need some people, and they might still need another person just for the sake of depth. But it's also upside a little bit, right? Even if you think C.J. Hicks might just come out there and look awesome and every bit of the 5-star recruit he was, having an experienced Mike, which is what Cody Simon is probably going to be. Now, he's had experience at both, and now you've got an experienced Mike who knows what he's doing. So maybe you feel a little bit more comfortable with C.J. Hicks and that upside, even if it comes with some mistakes early in the season. So that's why it's most important. C.J. Hicks and Gabe Powers are both probably really good football players. But I don't know any coach in the country who would feel comfortable with having 2 brand new starting linebackers who have done basically next to nothing. Nobody feels comfortable about that. So the fact that one of them is going to be a 5-star upside up galore, and the other one's going to be a now 5th-year guy who's really been playing for the last 3 years, that's a lot of experience and a lot of talent. And if you're an Ohio State fan, you probably feel better about your linebacker room today than you did before you found out this decision.
I mean, Cody Simon was a starter on this team in 2021. He took the starting job over from Tommy Eichenberg, which is interesting to think about now that Eichenberg has gone on to be a 2-time All-American by some lists. And Andrew, you look ahead to next season, and to get someone back of Cody Simon's caliber, we know that Ohio State's looking at linebackers in the portal. They have a guy from Cal who had 90 tackles this past year that's projected to or expected to come visit this weekend. We think they're looking at other guys. This obviously maybe stabilizes this room a little bit, as opposed to being one where you're dealing with a lot of turnover and a lot of uncertainty for next year.
I don't even think it's caliber. I think it's experience, because just map out the defense as it stands right now. Tyleik Williams, Mike Hall, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer. All 4 of those guys could very well go pro. Both of your linebackers, Steele Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg, could go pro. You might lose Denzel Burke to the pros. Josh Proctor's already gone, and Lathan Ransom has a decision to make. Like, this could be a very young defense, and you might have a couple juniors, 3rd years, 4th years on that defense, but young in experience. Having Cody Simon on this field, I think, is going to be a big deal for Ohio State, because think about how everybody talked about Tommy Eichenberg as kind of the quarterback of the defense and putting guys in the right spot and knowing what he was doing. Like Stephen was saying, having that experienced Mike. I'm not saying that Cody Simon is going to go out there and be an All-American level player. I just think that having a guy who is that level of experience, having a guy who can do those things where you can put people in the right spots, where you can understand what's going on, where the game isn't too fast for you. I mean, think about all the big games Cody Simon's played in. You need that next year, and you really might need that depending on some of the opt-outs that you guys have in the NFL draft. So it could be a really big deal to have just a veteran guy on the field, because, again, this defense could get young real fast, and I think having him in the middle of the defense would be a really big deal.
I think we can probably even go so far as to say Chambers and Eichenberg. I mean, technically they could come back, but I mean they're moving on, and it's not going to be necessarily a young linebacker group, but I think you're hitting on the right point. An inexperienced linebacker group in terms of like game reps. If you were to take Simon out of it, because then Hicks and Powers have just not played all that much. Reed Carrico went in the transfer portal. Like they've really lost a lot of experience there. What few reps that they had, and I think Simon is just a very big stabilizer. Ty Hamilton, another guy in the middle of that defense who might not be back next year, who's going to have this NFL decision to make. Like, as far as like stopping the run, they're potentially losing that whole front 6, really. And him coming back really gives them just one small piece to help sort of rebuild that front 6, depending on what these other guys decide. And when they decide, we'll text it, 614-350-3315. Any more intel that we hear as far as who's playing in the Cotton Bowl, who's coming back next year, or who's going in the NFL draft, that's where we'll go for it first. And we're going to talk about this a lot more on Buckeye Talk. Get that wherever you can find podcasts.